today, which is, it's really exciting because there's very few people that I've had that have changed the course or the direction in which I do my real estate investing. I've had a lot of really good mentors over the year, but for someone to like have a profound impact and actually shift the way that I'm doing this business, there's very, very few that I can say that have shifted it. There are a handful, but this guy is definitely one that's shifted it in a really positive direction. And I'm excited that he's going to be coming on and talking to our whole group, answering questions. He's lived now through 4 different real estate cycles. So for someone to actually go through the ups and the downs of the real estate investing world and then be here to be strong in telling us about it, like it's a treat. It's totally a treat. So I'm looking forward to this, and I'm going to make sure that I've got a sound check and it's working and nothing's broken on the tech side, because that's always the struggle when you do it. And oh, good. We've got, looks like everybody's getting signed on. Nice. The tech is working. We're going to start here in about 3 minutes formally. And once we start, then it's going to be free reign. I'm going to interview Lou, and I'm going to be able to ask him a whole bunch of questions and get knowledge and wisdom for you guys. But then we're going to open it up for Q&A. I know Lou's a really busy guy, so I don't know that we'll get him all day and all night by any means, but he's a very generous man, and he's here to help. And I asked him if he'd come in and speak to you guys. So this is a really, really good opportunity for us. So we'll kick off formally in about 2 minutes. I'm glad to see so many people on early. That's good, because the way that Zoom works is it's first come, first serve. And when you have more than, we get capped at 100 people. And when you have more than 100 people, then what happens is the people that showed up late or got on after the 100, then they just simply don't get on. So I'm glad that you guys showed up early too. And just a couple of housekeeping features. If you want to ask a question, there is 2 different panels. There is a Q&A panel and there's a chat panel. And I want to try to keep the questions separate. Try to post your question in the Q&A. That's if you are on Zoom directly. If you're on a different platform, because we're restreaming this to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and a couple others, then you can go ahead and use the chat. I've downloaded a nice software that kind of compiles all of the chats, and I'll use it. But if you're on the actual Zoom platform right now, then I'd prefer that you use the Q&A panel. Then I can actually read the questions to Lou at the end and make sure that he can answer as many questions as possible. So where are you guys tuning in from today? Let me know. I know most of us are working from home right now in the middle of this COVID crisis, but where are you tuning in from? What part of the country are you listening to this broadcast in? My wife and I, we're up in the frozen, cold tundra of Wisconsin. Yes, that's right. We were supposed to be and scheduled to be moved into a house that we negotiated. Beautiful seller finance deal, like $550,000 seller financing, negotiated the whole thing, and we were set to close on it and move in. And then this whole COVID thing broke loose, and our Airbnb here in Wisconsin all the reservations got canceled. So we're here in the Airbnb, and we're sitting until this thing blows over, and then we'll commence forward with closing on that property. Looks like we got John on. How you doing, man? We got Hamilton, Las Vegas, Nevada. We've got Gustavo from San Antonio, Texas. Laura's here from Jersey. All right, Laura in the house. We've got Sharon here from Texas. All right, we got a lot of states represented, a lot of places. This is good. This is good. And I see our special guest has now been able to log in too. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce him and get him in front of you guys, because this is what it's all about. Like when we enter these moments like this in time, and it gets scary. Like right now in the middle of this COVID crisis, there are people literally like hiding. I watched my neighbor out there a couple days ago. He's a pilot, and he was outside with his daughter, and they were walking on the sidewalk, and he was pacing back and forth for about an hour, and his daughter kept staring at him, and his daughter was basically saying, "Hey, play with me, Dad, play with me, Daddy." And he just kept pacing. He was staring off into despair. And no wonder why. The guy's a pilot. He's worried about his job. Like a lot of 9-to-5 jobs are shifting away right now. And in times like this, what we don't want to do is retreat into fear. Instead, we want to have facts. We want to have facts over fear. And when I asked this gentleman, who just jumped on camera right now, Mr. Lou Brown, to come on, Lou said he would. And I feel so blessed and privileged that he's going to come. He's going to talk to you guys. And Lou, thanks so much for joining, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to be here. No doubt about it, Nate. This is fun. You know, it's interesting because I was supposed to actually be in Dallas or traveling today. And then I was going to be in Dallas for 3 days speaking to some wonderful folks down there. And then next week I was to be in DC actually meeting with Congress people and senators and Dr. Ben Carson and all kinds of amazing folks. Hey, but that was canceled. And then I was supposed to go from there to Las Vegas to meet another whole group of folks that I was speaking for. And guess what? That got canceled too. So, so this is kind of like fun and games for us all. But hey, you know, I think that God does amazing things and everything is by design. Everything is for a reason. Everything is for purpose. And when we look at our lives and we say, you know, sometimes we do need a pause. And often people call those vacations, right? But sometimes I come back from a vacation, I say, I need a vacation from my vacation. You know, because you know, it's all that hubbub and turmoil and everything going on and things you're supposed to do and things you're supposed to see and all that good stuff. And sometimes you just need a rest after that. So I think we're being given this respite to kind of gather our thoughts, gather our resources, gather our opportunities, and really be in a position to take advantage of the new market that's coming up. That's what I think anyway.
Well said, man. Lou, thanks for giving us the positivity in the middle of all of this. So Lou, I just want to introduce you for a minute, and then I know that there's a whole bunch of people asking questions and already chatting, and people are excited that you're here. So thank you again. So a little background I want to share, and then Lou, we'd love to know more from you. But so Lou, I consider this man a mentor. Like in a very short window of time, this guy showed me the light. He showed me the whole other side of real estate investing that I wish I would have had a decade ago. Lou, you've lived now through 4 different real estate cycles. This is going into your 5th. You've bought and sold tons of single family houses, apartments. You've done hotels, you've done commercial. Like you've just been there and you've done that. In this time, man, like tell us, what do we need to do? What should we be looking out for? Like I have so many questions for you, but first tell us a little bit about you.
Well, it's interesting how I got started because I actually was raised extremely poor. I was not raised with a real estate background. In fact, I was not raised with a father. My mom came over to this country as a war bride. She came over on the Queen Mary. She had met her American trooper husband. Everything was going to be fantastic. And she got here and she found out he was an alcoholic and an abuser. And she had to get rid of him. She was here by herself in this country. And then I make the joke that she met my father, her second mistake. So it ended up just being the 2 of us. And I was raised, you know, in wartime apartments. They were built after the war to house all the people that were coming back and their spouses. And it was very, very, let's just say, minimalist. I had brown commercial tile on the floor, oil burning furnace in the middle of the apartment, metal cabinets in the kitchen. Our dining table was a Samsonite card table that we bought with S&H green stamps. There's probably some folks on here that actually know what I'm talking about. And so, you know, they used to give you stamps when you bought groceries and gasoline, and you use those, you put them into books. And that was the Bitcoin of the day. You actually created currency with these books that had stamps in them, and you went and bought stuff with it. And that's how we were able to actually furnish our apartment using those books from S&H green stamps. And so I just share that with folks because, you know, sometimes people are coming to us from all directions and all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of challenges in their life. And I would suggest that there's probably not a lot of folks that have come from the background I've come from. And I've just been a very, very blessed man in so many ways. that I was able to discover real estate. It's an interesting story that one of my mom's friends, and I called them aunts and uncles since I didn't have any real relatives in this country. And so Aunt Mabel told me at 8 years old that she had bought the duplex that she lived in. And she said the people on the other side were paying enough money to cover the mortgage, and that meant they were living for free. And that to an 8 year old who had been watching and observing his mother actually hiding out from the rent man and challenged with money, always challenged with money, always getting into debt, always getting into high interest loans and all kinds of things that were happening for her. And of course, don't ever think the kids don't see what's going on. Don't ever think that the kids can't remember that stuff, right? And so I certainly saw that. And here's a contrast with this lady that gets a loan, buys the duplex, is living for free, and we're hiding out from the rent man. And I learned some very, very valuable lessons from her. And she bought the duplex next door to her. And the people on one side were paying enough to cover the mortgage, and the other money was theirs. And then they bought another one and another one and another one. They went out to dinner every night at the steakhouse. They lived a good life. They went on cruises. It was just fantastic. And they had done that all in the comfort of their own neighborhood, literally buying property after property after property on the same street that they lived on. So imagine that the management was not hard at all, right?
Yeah.
They were able to see the people coming and going. And then they bought a new house on a corner lot, brand new, all brick home, and 2-story house. And I said, "How did you do this, Aunt Mabel?" And she said 2 words that changed my life. She said, "Accumulate property." And I just encourage everybody to really listen to that lesson. Hopefully I'm bringing that lesson to you today, to look at your life from a different point of view. And if I had not gotten that lesson as a young lad, I would not be where I am right now, because as a result of her suggestions, not really making me do anything, just suggesting along the way. I bought my first house when I was 18 years old. I was able to do that by taking over the existing loan on the property. I stepped in, I started making payments on that. There's no way this 18-year-old could have been able to qualify for a loan. I was able to do that by taking over that existing financing. And it really taught me some valuable lessons that I don't have to go to the bank. I don't have to qualify for loans. I can literally finance the acquisition of a purchase through other means. And that was a very valuable and powerful thing that happened in my life. So fast forward to today, I've never been to the bank. I've never qualified for a loan on a single family or small multifamily property. And I realized that not only could I do it, I could teach other people how to do exactly the same thing. So it's just kind of a combination of things that have gotten me to where I am today, because I've just always kept that philosophy of buy and hold and sell. And as a result, we're able to make a lot more money off of every transaction because of the overall philosophy of there's income available that can be paid out over your lifetime. Really, you can get income off of property. So that pretty much just kind of sums up how I got to this spot.
That's incredible. And on that note too, you have an incredible display, slide that we go through the wholesaler model versus your model. And I want to make sure that we hit that while we're together today, because I think everyone that's watching this broadcast can take a lot of nuggets away from that thing too.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad to do it.
So Lou, everybody right now, there's folks out there that are nervous. We're seeing negative on the news every single day. You're a guy that's lived through 4 real estate cycles, and you've come out better on the backside of each of them each time. What should we be focusing on? What should we be doing as real estate investors right now?
You know, what I've learned, Nate, over all these years is that there's always going to be a reset. And it's hard to accept when in the span of a few days in the scheme of things, right? In the span of a few days, we went from the best economy in history to now potentially the worst economy in history. And you go, how it just shows you how fragile things are and how undependable the market is, how undependable uh, many, well-laid plans are. The old saying, man plans and God laughs, right? so, so, we kind of do our thing and with an expectation that things are going to work out fantastic. And sometimes we find out they don't work out so fantastic. And so it's been an experience for sure. This now marks going into my fifth real estate cycle. I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting patiently for this as I've watched the stock market rocket from 20,000 to 30,000. In fact, I remember when I was talking with one of my students one day, and the stock market at the time was 7,000, and she says, they're talking about it going to 10,000.
Yeah.
I kind of look back on that to say, yeah, not only did it go to 10,000, it went to 20,000 and then 30,000, right? Or almost there at 30,000. And whoo, it's a good thing we had that cushion, right? Because we're back down to 20,000. And I don't even know what it did today. And I don't really care because I'm not in the stock market. Stock market is something I realized many years ago I had absolutely zero control over. And I realized that I'm not a good gambler because I'm not that person that can go in and out and in and out. And I just said, the gamble that I want to do is real estate. I like to gamble on sure things, and real estate has always been such a sure thing for me when I did it without speculation. Certainly, I have done real estate that has been speculative, and I didn't do so well. And I've learned lessons from that. That always, when I come back to my home place, so to speak, of buying right, buying cheap, buying with the end in mind, having a customer all lined up to go into that property, knowing how much down payment they have, how much they can afford on a monthly basis, and then literally custom buying a property for them to go into and giving them the opportunity to someday end up with home ownership. So the idea is that you level out, isn't that the term they're using now? You level out your risk. And right now they're talking about us being quarantined, so to speak, or at least sequestered, so that we're leveling out the risk of the virus. And the same is true in my world in real estate, is that I level out my risk by constantly seeking potential buyers and potential renters, and knowing who they are and what they're looking for and when they need to move. And as a result of already having that information, then when I see an opportunity, I say, I've got somebody or I've got somebodies for that property. So it's very exciting to go ahead and make the deal with the seller, knowing that I'm not going to be on that risk paradigm that so many people are experiencing right now. Certainly, this is not a great time for a real estate investor who has bought a property and they've borrowed money at 15% interest and they've got a hard money loan and they're wondering what's going to happen, because it's potentially that property is going to sell for a lot less than they thought it was going to sell for. So I think about my world in that realm because of the fact of exactly what you said. This is now starting my fifth real estate cycle. And so as a result of paying attention to what happened to me all those other times and realizing that the one thing that always really cost me money was the selling side. It wasn't the buying side. I was always able to buy right, buy cheap, find sellers, be able to work things out, solve their problems, be able to have the seller carry back financing or allow me to take over their existing financing. So that was always the game when purchasing the properties. But the hard part was retail selling. And this very thing that we're faced with right now happened to me back in 2008. Really, we had bought a lot of properties right. We bought them at auction. We bought them cheap. We fixed them up beautifully. We had them on the market. People were coming. They were raising their hand. I want to buy. I want to buy. I want to buy. And the banks pulled the rug out from under everybody, and they literally shut down. They wouldn't take any loans at all. And so as a result, all my potential buyers went away, and I was stuck with those properties. And I said, you know what? I've never had a problem buying. I've always had a problem selling. And so I'm going to pay attention to that. And I'm going to flip the script, and I'm going to start finding buyers first, and then buying the real estate. And sure enough, I flipped the script, and around that time, they passed a law that was a stimulus package. Imagine that. The very thing we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And part of the stimulus package was to give potential buyers of real estate, first-time home buyers, they call it first time, even though they just literally just could have sold a house 3 years ago. And as long as they hadn't owned a home in their name in 3 years, they could get an $8,000 tax credit. And bingo, that was the ticket. And I said, okay, guys. And I went to my whole group of investors that I've worked with and been mentoring and training for so many years. And I said, here's what we need to do. Everybody sell everything you've got to the people that live there. I said, let's go. Let's find out what their credit looks like. Let's see what we need to do to clean up their credit. Let's do that. And every one of you is going to get a nice fat check for $8,000 or 10% of the purchase price if it was less than that. And sure enough, we put together an entire program around just that. We called it Obama Bucks. But the Obama bucks, baby, send it right this way. Because guess who got the down payment money?
You got
Exactly. So I said, send them right this way. And then, of course, they changed the program. They extended it, by the way. They extended it another year. And it was our senator right here recently retired, Johnny Isaacson, right here from Atlanta. He was a broker. He was a real estate broker from yesteryear, and owned 20 offices in Atlanta called Northside Realty. And he had the idea, and he took it to Congress. And guess what? That idea passed in the Senate 99-0. So whatever passes 99-0, right? But sure enough, that absolutely passed. And then the renewal of that law passed again, at a unanimous margin. And so we were able to do some things to get out of that hole, which definitely every time one of these resets occurs, we end up in a hole. And by designing it the way they did, we were able to come back. But it took quite a while. I don't think we're going to see that this time. There's some very smart people that I'm listening to, and what I'm hearing is that they learned lessons from what happened before. And as a result of the lessons learned, what I see is that things are going to spring back much faster. And I'm excited about that. So it's a long answer to your question, but I definitely looked at what it was, and I could see exactly what the mistake was that they were making. I remember when Ronald Reagan came into office, and the stock market then was below 1,000, was below 1,000.
Wow.
And literally when he came into office, it broke 1,000, and it never looked back after that, right? And watch this. When I came into the real estate game, interest rates in this country were 21%. And what do you think? It broke the back of the financial industry. It broke the back of sellers. It broke the back of buyers. It just broke the whole game, the whole economy. And so when he came in, what he did to stimulate the economy was he said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to entice investors to get back in, because we know that it all is based upon real estate. And if we can just entice them to come back in, then what's going to happen is they are going to look for and be bribed by the government to get in. So sure enough, they came in with the bribes, and the bribe was that we were going to be able to write off our properties over 15 years. And in some properties, we were able to write those off over 12 years. So it was very enticing for somebody sitting on the sidelines to bring their money in and buy, because they could use that depreciation write-off to offset their ordinary income. Yeah. Zero out their taxes. It was an awesome, awesome idea. Did it work? It absolutely worked. It worked phenomenally well. And so we're looking at people in the White House and others who actually understand real estate and understand what real estate does for the economy. And to ignore real estate is to ignore the economy. So I think, and my crystal ball says that this is going to be a pretty quick recovery when we get past this. But in the meantime, we've never seen ever in all these economies that, this now me going into my 5th cycle here, we've never seen the world shut down. We've never seen the world economy be impacted all at the same time, all by the same thing. We've never seen the entire world go indoors and not talk to each other, and no conferences and no exchange of ideas other than on the internet. We've never seen anything like this before. So unfortunately, we're going to see a big dive before we see a bounce back.
Lou, I might have lost you there for a second. This is incredible, guys. If you've got questions for Lou as his screen's loading, then go ahead and type
opportunity, I think, for and we get to potentially buy right and buy cheap. And hopefully that's what's going to happen, right? We're going to buy right and we're going to buy cheap. And so I'm trying to move this over if I can. I think we're getting a little disconnect there.
There we go.
But the great thing is that we are seeing I think, and a very interesting thing is happening today in our business. We have some vacancies right now, and our phone is ringing off the hook. We are sending out applications like crazy. People are out and about, even though they're not supposed to. But so we're showing properties, and we've always done this. I've been teaching that for 30 years. Why should you go meet people? Let people show themselves. They know what a kitchen looks like. They know what a bathroom looks like. You don't have to say, this is your kitchen, this is your bathroom. And you can leave applications there at the properties, and people are pretty self-sufficient. And so now with the technology of today, we simply have them text a picture of their driver's license to us before we give them the code. They go in, they look at the property, we have them make a series of promises to us, and then when they leave, we have them call us back. If they don't call us, we call them, and we make sure they're putting the key back. And we exit interview them. We find out what they like, what they didn't like, so that we could find another property for them if that one doesn't work. So we definitely have dialed in the ability to keep our distance with our potential clients and not risk getting any kind of viruses or diseases. And then the fun thing is that we think we're going to have one of the most amazing weeks of our career this week. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped about what's happening in the marketplace. I'm pumped about how people are so resilient and in such a position that they know what they want, and they know what they're in a position to do. So as a result, they are doing it. And so all of us have a great opportunity, I think, going forward right now. And we got to put our blinders on, take advantage of this time that we have, and be able to plug ourselves into the economy that I see coming up.
Lou, many landlords are right now nervous because the government froze all evictions, and there's a 2-month or so delay, like you can't file an eviction whatsoever across the country. What would you say? And I know that I know what you do, but for everyone that doesn't know what you do, to not have that fear and still be excited about what's in front of you, what should these landlords be doing? Let them learn from you.
Well, what we did on Friday is actually write a letter to our residents and discuss the situation with them. We said, we know that some of you are going to be hurting, some of you are going to be in a difficult situation. If you've been laid off, if you are having your hours cut, get something from your employer, have your employer send that to us. You see, so what I'm trying to do is separate the wheat from the chaff, because obviously there's folks that are not going to be impacted or affected by this at all, and therefore they can afford to pay their rent. They're in a position to pay their rent. Other folks that aren't, well, we need to know what their situation is. Now, what we sent to all of our residents is a 7-step thing, and basically we said, look at where you're at right now. If you don't have the funds to do it, does somebody owe you money? Call those loans in, ask for that money back. Do you have friends, relatives, other folks that would be willing to help you? Ask for help at this time. There's also agencies that can help. So we have a 2-page summary of all kinds of different agencies that we already put together for all of our residents anytime they hit a bump in the road. And there's various agencies such as the St. Vincent de Paul Society. There is the United Way. There are housing programs and nonprofits within cities, within counties, within townships, within states. And those various agencies can step in and help and cover some or all of the rent. Generally speaking, they won't do that unless there's an eviction already in place. Now, as you pointed out, they closed the courts down. So there won't be any evictions, we think, for a couple of months. And some people think that means free rent. And we're definitely getting calls to the office saying, well, we don't have to pay rent for the next 2 months. And we said, no, that's not how that works. What happens is if you don't pay it, you still owe it. And they're going, oh, didn't understand that. And we were explaining, yes. And in my letter, I also said that unfortunately, we can't give free rent unless the government suspends all our mortgages that we have to pay, or we don't have to pay utilities anymore, and we don't have to pay water and gas and electric, then sure, we'll give free rent. And and then if I don't have to pay my team, if I don't have to pay the folks that work for me, sure, there's free rent. You know, so I kind of laid out all of the realities of our own expenses that we have. And then I said, unless those are delayed, or unless those are, forgiven, we can't really forgive rent. And obviously we'll be expecting that payment as soon as you can make that payment. Get with us. Let us know what's going on in your world, and we'll see what we can do to help. Now, another suggestion I made in the letter is, what can you do? Can you do landscaping? Can you do plumbing? Can you do heating and air conditioning? Can you do electrical? Can you do repairs? What is it that's your skill set? Can you paint? And let us know what you can do. Maybe we have a property that you could work on. Maybe one of our other residents has some things they want done. We could give you credit towards your rent for your doing those things. And so sure enough, that is working. We are getting responses back from people that need that helping hand. And they're giving us their whole list and the tools that they own and everything. So I'm pleased that I put that in the letter as well. Now, some people might not like this next one, but I did put it in there. And I said plasma centers. I said during this time, people are going to need blood, and some places actually pay for blood. They pay for the pint, right? And it's not small money. It's like $70, which for a lot of people, that's a day's pay. And so, they pay $70. If it's a couple, that's $140 right there. If you got a bunch of kids, at the house. Well, you got a paycheck there. but and then I said, and if you don't need the money, go ahead and donate blood at the American Red Cross. So it's to put the human touch on it, but yet to give people ideas that they didn't have before they had read that letter. So I just encourage everybody to communicate. We have a saying in our business, no news is bad news. So we want to always be in touch. We tell our residents that too. Listen, don't go underground. Don't stick your head in the ground. Communicate with us. Tell us what's going on. We can only help if you tell us what's going on. And so I suggest that everybody before rent day, everybody get in touch with your residents and just touch base and say, how's it going? What's happening at your job? And you can look back at their application and see what kind of job they have. Obviously, if they were working for a restaurant or, beauty shop or barbershop, oh my goodness, these people are hurting right now because they really aren't, doing business the way they used to. But don't make any assumptions. Give them a call. They could have changed jobs. They might not have a problem like that at all. They might have inherited some money. They might have gotten a settlement. You don't know what's going on in their world until you actually interview them and find out.
Totally makes sense. That's great advice, Lou. And you've got one other nugget to your system that probably gives you a little bit better quality tenant that's in there. I know there's a lot of people here asking questions right now that are landlords, traditional landlords. Can you give people the secret sauce? This is Lou Brown's specialty. You've got a program for this.
We do. It was interesting, Nate, back in the day when I kind of looked at all the aspects of our business and I said, what is it that I love about this business? Well, I love the dependable, predictable monthly income. I love that. And I love the ability to set up a business that's a retirement plan, right? That we can get paid from now on. And that any time that I needed a hunk of money, I could liquidate any one of my properties and get a hunk of money in. So it's definitely a fabulous, phenomenal business that certainly is not available if you flip properties, right? Because if you flip, it's gone. But if you have it, you have it. It is something you can do with it. And I started to realize that if I'm a landlord, I'm really taking on kids to raise. I'm taking on people to raise. And that there is different mindsets in this world. And the mindset of a buyer, of an owner of real estate is different than the mindset of a renter. And a renter is kind of like a sometimes person. They're sometimes on, they're sometimes off, they're sometimes present, they're sometimes not. They tend to move from job to job a lot quicker. They tend to move from place to place a lot quicker, and a relationship to relationship a lot quicker. And so I really realized that the kind of people I wanted to work with was folks that had the mindset of a buyer, a mindset of an owner. So I, over the years, have perfected a process where through our marketing, we're actually attracting people that want to own a home. And some landlords say, well, that means I'd be selling my property. Well, it could mean that you'd be getting an income for the next 40 years too. It could mean that it could actually end up being a lot better for you because of giving people the opportunity at home ownership. Now, here's an interesting thing. When somebody buys a property from you and you carry back the financing, what happens is that you have also offset all of the maintenance. Just like every homeowner has to take care of their own maintenance. The water heater goes out, the homeowner has to deal with that. The roof leaks, the homeowner has to deal with that. The air conditioning, heating goes out, the homeowner has to deal with that. So the same thing can be true when you attract a different, let's say, mindset of client. And so sure enough, we perfected a process of attracting people. We call it our house monster, right? So our house monster markets to find people in a certain way, in a certain mindset, to give them the opportunity at home ownership. And so as a result, we don't even let people into the the in-house financing is what we call it, the in-house financing program, which means they don't have to go to the bank and they don't have to qualify for a loan. They only have to qualify under our guidelines, which are very credit lax. They're more income driven, or mostly income driven, where we're looking at if they make enough money. We never want to put anyone in a position to lose. We always want to put them in a position to win. And so we've got stringent guidelines in terms of income. And then when they do what they need to do, which means they have to pay at least 10% of the value of the property down. So when they put that 10% down, then sure enough, I'm getting a great client that's got skin in the game. They've got their own house, so they get to decorate it the way they want to. They get to choose their carpet, their paint, and that's what most homeowners do, actually. They don't really take the builder stuff. You know, they come in, they paint the walls the colors that they love. I mean, that's why Home Depot has 400 colors, right? Because people have their own taste, their own things that resonates with their soul. And so I encourage that and go farther. I actually will pay my folks and give them credit towards their down payment for doing some or all of the repairs and improvements to the home. When they take the property as is, they can do some, all, or none of the repairs. It's completely up to my potential client. And in order to qualify at the what we call gold membership level, then they have to pay at least 10% down. And that can be a combination of cash plus work that they do to the property. Now, if they don't have that 10%, they can step down to our silver level, our silver membership. And that means they have to have at least 3.7% of the value of the home to qualify at that level. And if they can't qualify at that level, then step down to rent, which is what we call our bronze membership. At that level, they have to have at least 1% what we call move-in fee. And so that move-in fee is not refundable. However, when people give us the proper notice, we will pay them for a clean stove, a clean refrigerator. We'll pay them for certain things that they do on their way out of the property if they do leave. So again, everyone that joins our program is joining what we call the path to home ownership. I actually wrote a book. I wrote a book called Never Pay Rent Again. That's not a suggestion, by the way, but it's a way of being, right? The path to home ownership. And so this is our Amazon.com book that we give to all of our clients when they join us. They actually join our membership. And so we're looking at people, they are looking at us and we're looking at them from a different mindset. And so we're giving them some opportunities to do some things that other people don't give them.
That's incredible. And so that's going to secure, even though a lot of landlords are freaking out across the country right now, I imagine that will secure many more of your places. You're not going to have as many defaults as the average landlord right now.
We think that's going to be true. And I'll let you know. Now we collect our rents on the 25th of the month. Which is also unlike most landlords. Most landlords collect on the 1st of the month, but we also found that was a terrible time to collect rent because that's when everybody else finds out they're not going to get paid too. So that if they file their dispossessories, evictions, then they are at the same time that we're filing, everybody else, all the apartments, everybody's filing at the same time. Well, what do you think that does? That swamps the sheriff's department, so they can't serve the evictions and things like that on a timely basis. So we backed everything up, and this is maybe 25 years ago we did this, but we backed it up to the 25th of the month. So we'll know just in a day or so whether we got a problem or not. Everybody else will wait another week to find out if they got a problem, but we'll actually know tomorrow if we have a problem or not. And then so what happens is that we've got like 13 reasons that we collect on the 25th instead of the 1st. And so this is all part of the engineering that I've done in being in this business for over 40 years. I've learned some things that work and what doesn't, and pretty much put some steps in place to be able to maneuver and kind of flatten out the curve, right? Flatten out the risk and,
Yes.
and deal with that in the most effective way.
Lou, this is gold, man. We got a lot of people that are sending in questions right now too, and I know
Sure.
that you don't have all nights, but I want to make sure that you teach someone something that you taught me that's changed the direction in which I do real estate. Can you bust out the Willie the wholesaler model?
I did that. I pulled that up for you. I love this. Sometimes we need an illustration to just kind of see what is so, right? What is so, and because the buzzword out there in the world is wholesaling, right? Everybody's into wholesaling, and it's the king of the internet. Everybody thinks that's the thing to do, and I kind of smile and I say, what I do is actually buy from wholesalers. I say, please, I want to be on every wholesaler's list because they definitely ferret out deals that I wouldn't be able to ferret out. So bring them on, bring them on. And I always say to them, aren't you interested in what I do with the property that I buy from you? And they, oh, well, you're going to rent it out and whatever. And I say, it's so much more than that. And really, I would love to show this to you. And they, I know. And I know, but you should come to my class. I know. Okay, well, just keep bringing me your deals. Just keep bringing your deals. and I kind of laugh because, and it's kind of sad in some ways because they work so hard for their money, and they make from anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 on a typical wholesale deal. That's pretty much what the spread is for most wholesalers, and so they work very hard. They have to use their resources. They have to put out postcards, letters, door knocking, relationships with real estate agents and everything else in the world, all the concepts that we hear. And sure enough, I just said, well, what if we look at it from the point of view of what I've just been talking about here? I'll go ahead and pull the slide up and you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah. And I think you'll get a kick out of it. I know you've loved it. But here is, let's see if this will come up. All right, so we're going to call it Willie Wholesaler. If everybody can look at your screen right now,
you might have to double click. It's not populating yet. If you click share again and then double click the window pane that you want us to see.
Aha. Okay, so I need to do something from my side, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, so you click share and then it'll pop up all the options you can share in whichever window you want us to see. Double click that one.
All right, so it's kind of covered up here on I've got a double screen here. So where is share at in this thing? Is it got an S on it?
So it'll be a square. It might be under more, the 3 dots.
Aha, there it is. Okay, so share. All right, and then we're going to pull this one up, and then I'm going to open that up.
Hey, we got it. So it should be loading for everybody. Yep, there we go.
So let's see if this works. Huh?
Yep, I've got a white slide, Willie the Wholesaler on it.
Aha, and Helen Holder.
There's right? Helen Holder. Hey, I know her.
Baby. All right. So everybody ought to be able to see that now. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right. So we're gonna talk. And by the way, this relates to real estate agents also. I want to kind of speak to real estate agents. I love real estate agents. I have about 60% of the folks that I work with are real estate agents, and fortunately they got with me and I was able to show them some things just like this. So when you see Willie Wholesaler, I'm going to also say that's also Andy Agent. Andy Agent. Helen Holder is going to remain Helen Holder, but it's either Willie Wholesaler or Andy Agent. And kind of like what it happens in the real world out there is that Willie and Andy, they buy or list, right? So Willie buys and sells, or at least gets properties under contract, and Andy Agent gets properties under the listing agreement, right? So let's say that they do 10 deals per year, and let's say that there's a net $5,000 profit per deal. Now, Even real estate agents don't typically get that much. Well, it depends on the price point, right, of the homes. But we're sharing a formula here. Don't get caught up on the numbers, guys. I'm going to share a formula with you. So maybe in your area, the agents are making $50,000 per deal, but the formula still works. So let's say that in this example, that's $50,000 per year. And to make the same income next year, Willie or Andy has to do 10 more deals next year. And Willie and Andy, they don't get any added profit centers, and they have to pay huge taxes, short-term capital gains rate of 23.8% federal. And so that kicks them in the shins, $11,900. So they're now down to $38,100. Plus, they may also lose money again with state taxes, state income taxes, and no retirement income. Now let's compare that to good old Helen Holder. Well, Helen, let's say that Helen buys 3 deals per year. Now, Helen's just relaxing in life. She's not intense. She's not trying to buy a deal every month. She's just saying, look, if I could buy a deal every trimester, that's good enough for me. And so let's say that Helen's buying these properties for $50,000 each. Now, I know California, I know New York. Listen, add a 0 to it. Everything's going to make sense. 500,000 each. One, but in this case, let's say that Helen's in Terre Haute, Indiana, and she's buying these for $50,000 each. So that's $150,000. Now, Helen's going to borrow the money that she needs to purchase these properties for all cash. She's going to borrow it at 4% interest. Now, let's think about it this way, that remember that I've never been to the bank and I've never qualified for a loan. I've shared that today, right? I've never been to the bank. I've never qualified for a loan. In this business for over 40 years, over 1,000 transactions, never been to the bank, never qualified for a loan. Unlike Aunt Mabel, right? Aunt Mabel went to the bank. I've never gone to the bank because I found out that A seller could be the bank for me, or B, if I needed cash, I could get it from people's retirement accounts or personal funds that they had sitting right there in their checking account, and they would be willing to write a check for and loan the money to me because it would be at market rates, that I could pay them market rates for their money. So let's say that that's 4% now. In fact, the market rates are actually lower than that now, but we're going to be generous and pay 4%. And you might think, well, gosh, that's really low interest, but it's not, guys. People are sitting with money in their checking accounts right now, earning 0.0% interest, and have been for a very long period of time, right? The banks aren't paying anything for money just sitting in the bank. It's not a good place for money to be. Money needs to be working. So if you could say to somebody that you'll pay them market rates for their money, you'll pay 4%, my gosh, who wouldn't do that, right? If it's in safe, secure real estate. Now, here's what happens. So Helen has borrowed the money at 4% interest, amortized over 10 years. Why? Because Helen wants a retirement account out of this thing. Helen wants to get income for a very long period of time. And so therefore she wants to amortize or kill off her debt over a shorter period of time than is typical, right? So not a 30-year loan. She wants to get this baby paid off within 10 years from the cash flow in the properties. So sure enough, that works out to $1,518.68 for 120 months. So she's going to pay out $182,241.60. Now, here's the big deal. Just like Nate and I were talking about a minute ago, we're going to sell these properties with owner financing at my gold membership level, right? So that is our in-house financing program. So Helen studied under good old Lou Brown, and she decided to buy these houses right, buy these houses cheap, and offer them out with owner financing. Now, Helen's going to get 10%, like I was saying before. She's going to get $10,000 for each property, total of $30,000 cash, that she's going to bring in this year from those 3 properties. Now, honestly, guys, often people have more to put down than just 10%. So that's a limiting factor. We don't tell them it's only 10%. We say, how much do you have to work with towards your next home? And sometimes we hear 20, 30, 50, $100,000 to put down on a property. Well, that can obviously change your paradigm in this business for sure. Getting a big fat down payment from people that are moving in and getting a monthly income besides. But in this case, Helen's going to mark these babies up. Now, let's say that Helen is offering these out, and cash market on this property would be $90,000. But because Helen is offering financing, always know that when you are the bank, when you are offering financing, you can mark up your property for the value that you're bringing to the table. You see, these people don't have to qualify the traditional way. You're bringing value. Therefore, you can get a premium price on your property. So let's say that Helen has taken these properties. She's selling them for $100,000 each. Now, Helen's going to add 3 points to the loan. Now, how can you do that? Because the Dodd-Frank Act allows us to add up to 3 points to the loan or collect 3 points from our buyer. So what we do is we will finance those 3 points into the loan. So in this case, we're financing $92,700. In this case, it's 10.99%. Now, I'll alert you that currently, because of the crash in the economy, the crash in the interest rates, the maximum interest you can charge in today's market right now is 9.75%. So in other words, there's a fluctuating factor. What was it? 2 weeks ago, we could charge 11.5%. So that's how it is. We've never seen it drop that fast ever, period. But of course, because they want to underpin the economy, they took a cut way down to bring it in. Now, somebody told me yesterday that the interest rates have actually fluctuated back up because there's so much demand. People are trying to refinance their homes and do other things, which is going to help the economy. It's not a bad thing. So the monthly payment that Helen is going to receive is principal and interest of $859.79. We're not going to calculate the taxes and insurance because Helen doesn't get to spend that money. You have to pay out the property taxes and the insurance on the property.
Into Helen's buyer, that's actually what they would pay market rate rent during the year anyways. So this is
exactly right. By the time we add in, Nate, by the time we add in the taxes and the insurance, we're right about what rent would be on the same property. So imagine giving people the opportunity to own a home at the amount that they would have paid for rent. Now, aren't you helping somebody to have a better life than the one they've got when you're actually giving people an opportunity like that? And so that's 3 deals. Let's just 3 deals. So she's going to bring in $30,952.44 per year, less her cost of funds, the amount she's paying out for that loan, $18,224.16. So her cash flow in the first year is $12,729.16. When I say the first year, I mean 12 months after the acquisitions of these properties, she's going to have brought in $12,729.16. Now, over 10 years, she's going to be paying off these 3 properties. And then after 10 years, her cash flow zooms up from 12,000 to now 30,952.44 for the next 30 years later. So for 10 years, she's going to get 12,729 per year. And then after that, she's going to get 30,952.44. And so that means her net is over $1 million, $1,055,856, plus she gets her $30,000 down. Now let's go back over there to Willie for a minute. You can contrast that. Poor Willie, he ended up with $38,000 if he had no state income tax. He ended up with 38,000. Helen ended up with 30,000 her first year. Plus, don't forget, she got 1 year worth of income too. That brings her to $42,000 in income. So Helen, because she decided to hold the properties using our methodology, Helen actually ends up ahead, not only in her first year, but for 39 more years after that. Poor Willie, he has to do this all over again. Now, let's say that Helen was super street smart, and Helen just says, you know what, that was so good, I think I'll do that again. And I think I'll do that again and again and again for the next 5 years. So let's say that at the end of 5 years, Helen has just acquired 3 properties a year, which, goodness gracious, don't you think you can do that? And then, so for 5 years, Helen ends up with over $5,279,000. She ends up with $150,000 in cash and a beautiful cash flow off of those 15 properties. So you kind of compare your life, man. Maybe, you know, you joined today and you had wholesaling stars in your eyes, or you had agent commission stars in your eyes. And I just wanted to share this with you because when I came to this realization early in my game, I said, man, this is the game. And I would say, welcome to my world. This is what I do. This is how we do it. And we love the opportunity, number one, of the buy hold strategy. We love the strategy of buy, hold, sell. In fact, that's the name of my bestseller, Buy, Hold, Sell. And, you know, the thing is that with that strategy, we're able to give people an opportunity to have a better life than the one they've got. We're able to receive income off of it. We're able to defer our taxes because of this wonderful thing called depreciation write-offs for the ones that are rent and rent to own properties. We use that loss called depreciation to offset our income called selling the property or selling the property over time. And therefore, you've got an extra bonus that poor Willie doesn't have. Willie doesn't have any tax benefits, but good old Helen's got tax benefits too. So this just gives you something to ponder as you're looking at your future and as you're thinking about what might happen in your future. This is giving you some examples there, Nate.
This is awesome. Okay, Lou, I got questions coming in throughout my ears right now, but I want to make sure that that's for the folks that have to go, and I know that your time is limited too. How do we find you, Lou? Like, I know you wanted to give away some stuff too, but how do I get people in touch with you for anyone that has to go? And then we're going to take questions.
Absolutely. So streetsmartinvestor.com. Just check us out at streetsmartinvestor.com. You're welcome to go to my LouTube channel. We call it the LouTube. streetsmartwiz.com/LouTube, LOUTUBE. That'll take you over to my YouTube channel. I got a whole bunch of I got a whole bunch of content there, a bunch of videos on my 101 cash flow accelerators for your real estate business. So you're definitely welcome to go, get that content for free. Really great stuff. I will tell you, it's the things that we use in our business, and it's been powerful additional income. You know, most landlords only make the difference between what they pay for their funds and what they rent the property out for. That's it. But we've got about 25 more income generators above that. So I definitely want you to learn those, and you can learn those at my LouTube channel. And we do have a special gift. I talked with Nate about this, and I've got a great 20-step series. And now that people have time on their hands, you definitely can watch it. It's 20 different steps on how to become a successful real estate investor. And you can get that by going to streetsmartinvestor.com/2020 steps, STEPS, steps /Nate, NATE, because this is a special thing. We normally sell this 6-hour series By the way, it's chopped up into 20 different steps, so you don't have to watch them all at the same time. Some of them are as short as a couple of minutes, and some of them take 40 minutes. So it just depends on which one that you're looking at the time as to how long each one of those steps is. But we've got it cut up into 20 videos. You could just sit there and watch the whole thing at one time if you want to. Binge watch, baby. and see me for 6 hours. But it's got a lot of great content in it. And Nate and I were talking, and he says, you know, Lou, there's a lot of people just really hungry for great information. And he says, what do you have that you could give to my folks? And so I decided to just offer that up. You don't have to pay for it. It's free. You just come in, and because we've got that a special portal set up for you, just go ahead and set that up and go out and see it. We just got that set up, Nate. So if it's not active right now, guys, just come back in an hour or two and it'll be active. I don't know what they've done since I got started. I'm gonna just look back here and see if I see any alert from anybody that says, my gosh, I've gotten a lot of leads.
Yeah.
Since we've been on, Nate, man, and your machine is working fantastic too. The social media blueprint. I'm just looking at leads coming in off the social media blueprint too. So your program is just fantastic and really gives people an opportunity to just accelerate your business in this great opportunity that we have. Certainly, we don't wish anyone to have a bad experience during this time, but it's a given that it's going to happen. And so it's a good thing when we can take problems off people's shoulders. And I always look at ourselves as solution makers. We give people a solution to a problem that they've got. And we can step in because we know what to do with it. We've got all the resources in place. We've geared our business towards it. So they certainly don't know where to even start. And we certainly do. So we can take issues off people's hands and be able to deal with them. And that's one of the reasons that I love this business, is because I can't tell you the number of times that people have hugged me and thanked me and sent me Christmas cards and given me gifts and everything else for taking the burden off of them. So always look at yourself as providing a solution for people, and don't ever try to take something from somebody that doesn't want to give it to you, right? So we have a presentation process that we do that really underpins exactly who we are and what we do. You'll see that on those 20-step videos for sure too.
Lou, this is so generous of you, man. Thank you for doing this. I know that time is tight for you, but could I get maybe 10 minutes of questions? We got
absolutely
a lot of good folks here. Okay, so John asks, will banks lend to landlords still for buying more houses or apartments?
Well, it's interesting, John. Was it John?
Yep.
John, listen to me. Listen to me carefully. We have a real estate investor in the White House. we have someone who actually understands our business. We have someone that actually understands our industry. We have someone that understands the impact of our industry on the economy. And that is so unique. All these decades, we've had politicians in there that didn't really understand business at all. They've never owned a business. They've never signed the front side of a check. They just don't know how entrepreneurs work and what a big benefit entrepreneurs are to the economy. And by the way, I don't care what your politics are. I'm not having a political discussion with you right now. I'm having an economic discussion with you right now. And let me tell you, this could not be better for us. And so just stay tuned. John, I think they're going to open the floodgates, baby. I think they're going to make it so easy for us to borrow money. And I'm still going to say to you, I've never been to the bank and I've never qualified for a loan. And I don't care how wide they open the floodgates, I'm not planning to start. If I can be in this business for over 40 years and stay out of banks, you can too. and I can definitely teach you my script and what to say and how to say it and how to work with real people and borrow their money and give them a good return on their money and a safe place to put their money. Certainly, I wish I could have told the world that they could have had their money in real estate instead of the stock market like a few days ago, right? Before the bottom dropped out and they lost so much of their wealth. They could have had all of that money working in real estate, because we're not going to see that happen in our arena. And their money is quite safe in our arena because we've got customers that can afford what we've got. And that's the exciting thing about what we do and how we do it. So great question, John.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Jay's asking, Lou, do you have properties in multiple markets or just in Georgia?
Jay, we pay property taxes in 19 taxing jurisdictions. so, so definitely we're in other places. And one of the great things is our system actually works quite well with that. You know, is an interesting story. So we have someone on my sales team at my event who joined us. He was sent to me by a friend, and he's a real estate investor. And he was going to help us at our events to be able to support our folks while they were at our events and what have you. And as a real estate investor, what he was doing is buying tax liens and deeds. And once he purchased the property, then he would flip that property out. And he was doing that long distance. He lives in Salt Lake City, and his properties are in Michigan. And he saw our model, the very thing I've shared with you today. He saw our model and said, "Oh my gosh, makes so much sense." He went all in on our program. He became a certified affordable housing provider. This is our brand here. He became a certified affordable housing provider and doing exactly the same kind of buying that he was doing in Michigan. He now turned it around, and he just shared at our event this past weekend to the entire audience, so I can share it with you, that now in just a few months, he's now making $10,500 a month on his properties because he adopted this model. And that's certainly not what he was making on flipping the properties before. So after having done like 34 deals, he flipped the script, started doing it our way, and now he's got a dependable income on a monthly basis. So he's just head over heels in love with this idea. And to further your question, so what he does, he lives in Salt Lake City, his property's in Michigan. Guess what? He's never actually set foot in the state of Michigan. So using our model, you absolutely can do it in multiple markets. You can do it in cheaper markets. You can do it in higher demand markets. It works anywhere in the country.
That's fantastic, Lou. Hey, you got another one here from Randy. Randy's been doing subject to since 2009 in a small military town. He stumbled into one small town that won't let him record the deed. He's tried everything, including talking to attorneys. Super great market, but it's causing him a lot of problems because he can't record the POA in the deed, the power of attorney in the deed. Any advice you might be able to offer, Randy?
Well, I wonder how, Randy, you've taken title to that property, because basically we do not do subject to unless we take title to that property in trust. Now, the way that I teach it is different. And I will tell you, if you've studied under anyone else on the topic of subject to, you've not heard it this way. But what we do is we purchase, and of course I started this whole thing in the 80s. But the idea is that when we purchase the properties, we purchase them into trust. It's the seller's trust. So we actually provide support for the seller to be able to set up a trust, place their property into their trust, and that bypasses that thing called the due upon sale clause in the mortgage, which does have an exception to it. When someone places their property in trust for estate planning purposes, the lender is prohibited from calling the loan due. And so what happens is that after that trust is set up, I'm telling you, anybody in the world, there should not be a clerk of court in the world that would prevent someone from placing their property into their trust and recording that deed, Randy. So I'm going to challenge you to go do it the right way. In fact, you can go to streetsmartinvestor.com and learn about land trusts there. I love them. I've been using them since 1984 and love them ever since. And there's about 30 different benefits you can get from trusts that you cannot get from any other entity. So you know you're talking to a fan right now. And one of the benefits is placing property in trust for estate planning purposes. The lender is prohibited calling the loan due. So when the seller places their property into their trust, then after that's done and after the notifications to the bank, then they assign and quit claim their beneficial interest in that trust to another trust. We actually have, there's two different trusts here. So there's the land trust, right? There's, I don't know if you can see that, that's the land trust. And then we have them assign that beneficial interest in the land trust to the personal property trust. And this is a trust that you control. So you're able now to put yourself in a position that the lender cannot call the loan due. And using that scenario, I don't know that you would have a minute's problem. Now, the second suggestion I would make, Randy, is it might be you going down there that's causing the problem, because they might sense that something's up. I would definitely have your title company send that paperwork in. They never question when it's an attorney or a title company. So getting them to just send that in along with their regular paperwork, that's another way that you could solve that problem, Randy.
That's beautiful, beautiful. And Randy, let us know if that instruction is clear.
Absolutely.
And then next, Mary says, you mentioned finding the buyer first. Why do you always find the buyer first?
Well, you know, what is a perfect life, right? What is a perfect life? When we already have our customer, we already know how much down payment they have. We already know what their credit looks like. We already know what they can afford on a monthly basis. And then we literally can go custom buy a property. We can buy that one right. We can buy that one cheap, and we can make that spread because we already know who our customer is. So I love the idea. I teach the idea since 2009 using my House Monster system. We literally market to find those customers first. Now we put them in a holding tank, so to speak, called a membership. It's the Path to Home Ownership membership. They pay $50 to join the membership. You get paid a 20% commission for them joining the membership. They get a whole bunch of videos, training, all kinds of great things. And it gives you the opportunity now to look at their credit report and discover exactly what their score is, exactly what kind of negative things they might have on their credit report. Then sign them up for credit restoration, which you get paid again. So we've got a strategy where you're actually getting paid up front for having gotten your customer, and then you're getting paid commissions on various services that you're providing to them while they're in the holding tank membership, while you're resourcing a property that matches their situation, which, by the way, is already on the MLS. Many properties have been sitting on the MLS for a long period of time. And so as a result, if that property's been on the market for at least 90 days, I try to compare my client, my lead, to all the properties that have been on the market at least 90 days. And then we contact the real estate agents, and I have a whole script of what we say and how we say it to the real estate agent. And they let us go ahead and make our presentation directly with their seller. And so as a result, the real estate agent makes their commission. Our buyer buys the property. We get the buyer's down payment money, and we get an income stream off that property. Seller wins, real estate agent wins, our buyer wins, we win. That's what I call win-win, win-win.
It's beautiful, beautiful. And I know that time is short. I feel like when the coronavirus task force comes out every day to give the public update, the reporters are pouncing with questions, and I don't want to do that to you, Luke, because I know your time's value. But I got a couple more for you. John saying, this is different, John. This is John G. John G says, this question might be market specific, but what's your opinion of the rental market, the landlord buyer?
Well, I already said what I think about landlording. I think that you can make a certain amount of money in that business, but there's a lot more money that can be made. And so when you kind of keep doing what you're doing, but do it in a different way, allowing the tenants that are moving into your properties the opportunity at home ownership, hopefully you're going to get a better quality of client. And what I mean by that is not a negative against the person, but a different mindset, a mindset of taking care of the property, a mindset of it not being your property, but a mindset of it being their property, a mindset of them improving their property as opposed to resenting paying you rent in the first place and certainly not taking care of your property. So what do I think about the market? It's a great market. I mean, there's plenty of renters out there. They can't qualify for traditional loans because of A, credit, and B, income. And in some markets that have had a zoom up in the values, we'll see what happens there. But there could be some real buying opportunities available there. And I've already expressed to you what I believe in is the buy, hold, sell strategy. I suggest that you do get my book. In fact, you can go to streetsmartinvestor.com/buy, hold, sell, buy, hold, sell, BUYHOLDSELL. And when you go to that site, instead of paying $24.95 on Amazon, you can pay $19.95. So that's another $5 you can save by going to that site as opposed to Amazon. And they'll ship it to you right away. But that book will guide you through the concept of the buy, hold, sell strategy and the amount of profit that's available to you by doing some things different, along with those profit centers I was talking about.
Great, Lou. Okay, I've got two more, and then the other questions we're going to actually defer. But there's two more questions that I want to get to. Laura and then Erasmo. Laura is asking this. Laura is saying, do you use a purchase and sales agreement or a rent with the option to purchase contract?
So it depends. Laura, it depends. Generally, I'm purchasing the property if I possibly can. And so that's going to be a purchase and sale agreement. We have a unique one. I've developed it over 40 years of being in this business. And definitely there's profit centers in buying. There's profit centers in selling. So we have developed it in a way that gives you the maximum opportunity with that. And it actually pre-negotiates a lot of the different elements of the contract. So if I possibly can buy it, I am going to buy it subject to existing financing. So in that agreement, we do have subject to already built in. And if there's equity in there, I'm going to buy it with the seller carrying back financing. So we have a clause in there for this, what's called a purchase money note, for the seller to carry back from us to purchase their property. So that is designed, or it's pre-designed with the outcome in mind, that we do want to definitely have the seller involved in either selling us their property subject to the existing loan or carrying back financing, or a combination of the two. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't buy properties for cash. We certainly do. It really does depend on the seller's situation. If they have the ability and the desire to carry back financing, this is a way you can do it. And if they don't like that strategy, then we back down to seller financing. And if that doesn't work, then we back down to buying on a rent to own plan, basically is what you're describing. is a lease with the option to buy the property. So it's in my totem pole of deal creation, it's way down the totem pole. I like buying the deed if I can get it. If I can't get it, I'm going to do owner financing. If I can't get that, then I'm going to do the lease with the option to buy. If I can't get that, then I'm going to get an option to buy the property, just a straight option to buy the property.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Lou. And last question. Okay, you've been so generous with your time so far. Last one. Okay. Erasmo says, I'm a new wholesaler myself. I chose to be Willie, the wholesaler, in order to build capital to later become Helen. But is there any creative way to become Helen with limited capital?
Amen. Amen. I'm proud of you. So you actually saw the two sides there, and that's brilliant. So here's what's interesting about a lot of the deals that I buy, because I said to you, I do buy from wholesalers, and I love wholesalers. They've been wonderful to me. And some of the times they come to me and the deal is just too thin. It's just not enough margin in there for me to get excited or interested in doing it for my model. So I'll tell them, look, I want you to go back to the seller and say the following things. So I'll tell them how to go back and restructure what they're bringing to me. And often they're able to turn it around so that I can buy the property subject to the existing financing. So that would be the way. I'm sorry, what was the name again?
Erasmo.
Erasmo. That would be the way, Erasmo, that I would do this deal. Is I would now become skilled, become a master at this concept that I could definitely teach you, called buying subject to the existing loan. And then that puts you in a position to be Helen Holder instead of having to flip the properties. And I certainly get it that you want to have some cash to work with so that you can be in a position to be Helen Holder. But I'm telling you, you don't have to. I'm telling you, you literally can start where Helen is starting, as if Helen was actually buying every one of her properties from Willie Wholesaler. Because what did Helen do? All she did, now in this example, I was saying that Helen raised the money to buy her properties for all cash. But substitute the concept of Helen didn't even have to go and raise that money. Helen simply took over the existing financing on the property. So that's another opportunity for you. I want to make this caveat. I've talked a lot about subject to that when we buy property subject to the loan, we always, always, always make those payments. It's so important that you are getting a gift from God, the way I look at it, and always, always, always want to honor what you said you were going to do, which is make those payments. And so I say, make those payments before you make your own payment on your own property. And that definitely is an opportunity to now help yourself and help the industry, help the seller that you took over the property from. Imagine that a seller was behind in their payments and you not only brought the payments current, but you made payments regularly on time from then on. What do you think that does for the seller's credit? It absolutely restores their credit, absolutely zooms their score. It is a real benefit that you can give a seller. But again, never, never, never buy a deal unless you're going to make those payments. And always know that if you get in trouble, you need to go to another investor or somebody else to make sure that those payments are made. So that you can honor your word that you made to that seller. Whatever your word was, whether you were going to make the payments or you weren't going to make the payments. In some cases, houses are already upside down and it doesn't make sense to make the payments. And that's another whole course that we won't cover today. But certainly when you commit to make those payments, you absolutely make those payments and you help the seller in a very profound way by doing that. You help yourself, certainly, Erasmo, to not be able to have to now be Willie Wholesaler anymore too.
Lou Brown. Lou, thank you so much for all of this. You extended your time even further than you told us you could give us, man. You're generous. You're a beacon of light in this whole arena right now where we're all going through a little bit of darkness, but we appreciate you. Thank you, Lou.
Absolutely, Nate. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. And I know that you're an inspiration to a whole lot of folks. So I just appreciate everything that you're doing as well.
Awesome. And guys, just that link one more time. I posted it in some of the different chat roles that we've got here, but if you want Lou's 20 steps, he's not charging anything for it right now. Normally he charges, but if you want those 20 steps, go to streetsmartinvestor.com/20 steps/Nate. I posted it in Facebook and I posted it in a couple different chat roles, so you guys can grab it right there off the link. Lou, thank you again, sir.
Fantastic.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you too. Yeah, baby. Y'all take care. All right. Weather this storm. It's going to be fine. We're going to get out on the other side.
God bless you, Lou.
You too. Take care.